Hey guys, DJ Jackson, 8-time world champion, 2-time ADCC vet, and I want to talk to you guys about something that isn't really a part of traditional jiu-jitsu, but it's very, very important as far as jiu-jitsu is concerned, self-defense. Because jiu-jitsu is a self-defense based martial art. It's a martial art built around being able to defend yourself. And the reason I want to talk about that is because a lot of people think that defending yourself means knowing how to fight if you're in public. And yeah, you do. In jiu-jitsu, you will learn how to fight. It's important that everyone has the ability to defend themselves. But it's also important to know that a lot of the times, the best route is to not get into an altercation at all. It's much better to avoid the situation before it happens. So if someone's coming up to you, someone's trying to attack you, someone's trying to fight you, try to use your words to calm them down. Apologize, put your hands up in a defensive manner. In case they do come up to you, you can defend yourself. You're ready to defend yourself. Don't just let someone walk up to you with your hands down, because then something bad could happen. But then it's also very important to know that you should be walking away, trying to get away, trying to avoid these situations as much as possible. And one of the ways we avoid these situations is never argue in public. There's no reason to argue with someone in public. Like dogs bark, yeah, but there's nothing good about barking like a dog in public. It's much better to, hey, if someone wants to yell at you, let them yell and walk away. Try to keep enjoying your day. But if you start arguing with someone, you're gonna do nothing but alert his friends, alert other people that there's an altercation going on. Now people are pulling out their phones, yelling World Star, and now you're gonna be in a situation that you may not be able to get out of. So there's no real reason to argue in public. I have a rule that I always live by. If I argue with someone in a club, I leave the club. There's no reason to argue with someone in a club and then wait around in the club for him and his friends to get more mad, get more drunk, get more angry, and then now they wanna decide to escalate that situation somewhere they didn't need to be. And especially if you get in an argument with someone in a club and they leave the club, you should definitely leave the club, because if they leave the club, hopefully they're leaving to go home. But a lot of the times they're not leaving to go home. They're either leaving to call some friends, leaving to get some weapons. So it's important that we're not getting into arguments while we're out having our day. And we're also, if we do get into an argument, something that does happen that we can't avoid, just get away from the situation. Avoid that situation, because nothing good happens from fighting in public. Nothing good happens from arguing in public. And there are a ton of bad things that can happen from doing both of those things. And also, when we're in situations, we never want to escalate a situation. There's no reason to escalate an argument to the point in which you're into a fight with somebody, or even if you don't think it's going to turn into a fight. If you're walking and you're near somebody and you guys are arguing, don't put your hands on that person. There's something that happened recently in the jiu-jitsu community where one high-level black belt, or world-class black belt, the highest level you can get, ends up pushing another guy who is also the highest level you can get in jiu-jitsu, and he gets slapped in the face for pushing that guy. And I think the guy that slapped him in the face is 100% right, because you shouldn't put your hands on people. Some people may think I'm wrong for saying that, but you should not put your hands on people. If someone puts their hands on you, you have the right to defend yourself. Bitch slapping somebody isn't a real defense, but if that guy was clearly ready to fight and he was ready to escalate that situation further, and the guy who got slapped was not ready to escalate that situation further, but he escalated it at the beginning by pushing him. So if he wasn't ready to escalate the situation, he should have avoided the situation, not push the guy and think the guy is just going to push him back. No, he's not. A lot of people aren't going to just push and shove with you and argue with you. Some people are just going to haul off and punch you in the face. Like, getting slapped is on the low end of what could have happened. Like, he could have gotten punched in the face, and it could have gotten much worse, but because we're in a jiu-jitsu community and both guys are high-level competitors, there's no real danger of getting a shot. But still, that is always my number one fear when I'm in an altercation, and why I avoid altercations so much, because in the countries that I live in DC, lots of people have guns, and Brazil, lots of people have guns, and where I'm at now in Thailand, lots of people have guns. So if you end up in an altercation with someone, you can't just expect that person to just take you beating them up and going about their day. No, they're probably going to get a gun. They're probably going to come back, and they're probably going to try to shoot you. Hopefully they can't aim well, but that was our fault for putting ourselves in that situation if we get shot. So it's very important to not escalate situations. Don't argue in public, and don't escalate situations. There's no reason to put your hands on people. If you put your hands on someone, you have to expect something to come back at you. And if you don't expect something to come back at you, you're an idiot. People aren't just gonna allow you to push them, and they're gonna do absolutely nothing. And if you're doing that to the type of person who will allow that, now you're a bully and you're a dickhead. So you shouldn't be a bully anyway. Most bullies get weeded out through jiu-jitsu. So there's no reason to put your hands on somebody, because if you do, you have to assume that they're gonna do something equally, or most of the time much worse back to us. So keep your hands to yourself, don't escalate situations, and do your best to avoid these situations, because there's nothing good that can happen from fighting in public, from arguing in public, from absolutely nothing good comes from these situations. Tons of bad things. I can give tons of examples, but I'd rather not right now. But lots of bad things can happen. People have guns, people have knives, people have knuckle dusters. So we should always be trying to avoid all situations that can either get us or someone else hurt. Also, we need to protect our space. Jiu-jitsu is a self-defense based martial art, and I'm saying this a lot, you should avoid all these types of situations. But if someone's coming at you, you have your space. You should be backing up, backing away, put your hands up, saying, please, sir, no, I don't want to fight. If that's not enough and they come into your space, then you're gonna have to defend yourself. But don't allow someone to come into your space and then you do nothing about it. Because if someone comes into your space and they wanna fight you, they're gonna start fighting you. So if they come into your space, you need to handle the situation and get out of the situation as fast as possible. Don't wait around, don't hang around for his friends, don't tussle around with the guy and while the guy's screaming for help and stuff like that. There's no reason to be in a situation like this. It's terrible to see people in situations like this, especially because all of these situations are absolutely avoidable. Like 100% of the time, like one of the people in a situation could have done something different to avoid the situation. And some people just don't care. Some people will handle the situation as fast as they can. You mess with them, they'll just end it as fast as they can. They don't really care about the consequences. So we have to understand that there are people like this out there, and avoid being in confrontations, because sometimes you're gonna pick the wrong guy. You don't wanna, if you pick the right guy, you're just a bully. You don't wanna be in situations where you're bullying people anyway. But if you pick the wrong guy, lots and lots of bad things can happen if we're in that situation. We also need to know who we surround ourselves with. We have to know the people we hang out with, know the people we associate with, because I've seen a lot of times people get into fights that they had no business being in, because either the girls they were with are arguing with guys, which I personally hate with a passion, because these girls are arguing with guys. You step in to protect these girls, next thing you know, one of the guy's friends knocks you out, you don't even see him, and now you're in a situation where you're getting kicked in the face because you're trying to protect these girls from arguing with guys. Make sure you're not around girls who act like that. Like, there's no reason to hang around people who argue, girls and guys alike. Some people love to argue, love to hoop and holler. When I first started learning martial arts, first started training, one of the things I hear all the time when I'd go out was, oh man, DJ, you fight now? Oh man, so if we get into a fight, you got my back? No. Like, if someone attacks you, I'll help you. But if you start a fight, you start a fight. There's no DJ's there so DJ can help me out of this fight. No. DJ is a martial artist. DJ learned how to defend himself. DJ fights at a high level. So DJ needs to stay out of trouble. DJ can't deal with an assault charge because my friend's being an asshole. So make sure you know who you surround yourself with, and both sides of it. So if someone does end up attacking you, you need to know if the friends you're with are just the type of friends to get up and run. Because you also, if you're around those type of friends, you need to get up and run. Sometimes you and your friends will be able to defend yourself. Most of the time, it's better to get up and run, because once you run away, there's nothing bad gonna. Most of the time, there's nothing bad gonna happen after that. But even if you and your friends beat this person up or beat these people up, now you're gonna have to look over your shoulder. You don't know if they're coming back. You don't know what friends they have, what friends they know. Maybe they know someone in law enforcement, and now you're in trouble because they started a fight, but now law enforcement says you started the fight because those are this guy's friends. So it's very important to know who you surround yourself with, and don't get into situations where you have to defend yourselves. But if you do get into a situation where you have to defend yourselves, know that it's not a game. You shouldn't be tussling around with people out in public, because I've heard lots and lots of stories of people just getting punched. They say it feels like, I've never been stabbed, but from people who have been stabbed, they say it feels like they're getting punched. They're getting punched in the side. And next thing you know, they just start feeling cold and weak, and then they fall. And it's high level. I've heard it happen to UFC fighters. I've heard it happen to high level Jiu-Jitsu fighters. So it's very, very important that we know to, once we're in an altercation, to treat it as a life or death situation, because it is. It's not a game. You can't play around, because if you're sitting there and you're playing around with this person, very bad things can happen. You don't want to be in a situation that was avoidable and end up losing your life, or losing some functional ability that you need to compete. Now you can't close your fist the way you need to close your fist because someone stabbed you a bunch of times. It's very important that we avoid those situations. But if you are in a life or death situation, it is not a game. Don't treat it as such. And also, keep your head on a swivel. You never know who knows who. Like, lots of people have lots of friends that look nothing like them. You don't want to be arguing with a bunch of white guys and thinking that the big black guy on the side isn't their friend, because a lot of times it is. And he's just walking up behind you so he can bonk you on the side of the head and end the altercation right there. And then the white guys aren't going to just stop it there. They're going to, not whoever race they are, they're always going to escalate the situation more if you're in an altercation with someone and someone hits you upside the head and you fall. 100% of the time I've seen people get stomped out in this situation. It's terrible. And it's really, really gross, but it happens. So you need to make sure that we're avoiding situations. We're keeping our head on the swivel. We don't let people come up behind us. We know where the exits are. So if the altercation does raise to a point where we need to get out of there, we know the best way to get out of there. But it's very, very important to understand that it's not a game when you're in a self-defense situation. When we're in a situation where you need to defend yourself. So always keep your head on a swivel, but it's very important that we always try to avoid these altercations. There's nothing worse than being in a fight that you could have avoided, but now you're getting jumped because you thought that person was alone. He ends up not being alone. Now you're fighting a bunch of people when you thought you were fighting one person. Happens all the time. It's going to happen a lot more. It's just part of life. But the thing we can avoid is not being in altercations. If someone gets mad at us, we bump into someone, we spill their beer. He's like, hey man, F you spilled my beer. You can either buy that person a beer, you can keep arguing with them and then risk getting into a fight, or you can just leave the club. Those options are on you. You know, there's no reason to I really don't think there's any reason to just keep arguing with someone after that happens, because nothing good comes of arguing with people out in public, whether you're at the bar or the club or no matter the case. And I can't stress this enough. If you're at a club or you're at a bar, you get an argument with someone, and it's much better for you to leave the club. If you don't want to leave the club, okay, but you're going to be very uncomfortable all night anyway, because you're always going to be looking to try to see where that person is. And also, if that person leaves the club, they could very well come back with a weapon that can do grave harm to you. There's no point in learning how to defend yourself the way most of us know how to defend ourselves, and now we're getting shot, because I don't know any way to dodge bullets. I haven't learned that yet. I may call my instructor after this and see if there's a new martial art that can help me get my matrix on and dodge bullets, because if that becomes a thing, then maybe I'll change my stance. But I'm pretty sure it's not a thing. Lots of people have guns. So if you get in an altercation, that person leaves the club, make sure you leave the club too. or it's better to just leave before them so you're not really worried about them waiting outside with their friends or anything trying to attack you. So there's no reason to be in a situation where we are escalating a situation to the point where physical violence is happening, whether to us, one of our friends, or to the other person. Because maybe you hit the other person too hard, that person falls, now you're in a different type of trouble with the law, which is never good. So it's always of the utmost importance to avoid situations. And it's never good to put your hands on someone and expect them to just allow that to happen. So don't escalate situations. There's never a reason to put your hands on someone unless they put your hands on you. If they put your hands on you and you feel like you need to defend yourself, then you defend yourself. But like I said, it's not a game. When you defend yourself, it is 100% not a game. It is a life or death situation, and you need to treat every self-defense situation as if it's a life or death situation, because 100% of the time it is. Whether you think it is or not, your life is at risk. So it's very important to make sure that we are always trying to do our best to not be in these situations. And if we are in a situation, don't escalate it any further. Get out of there if we can. If we can't, avoid it the best we can, but do your best to stay out of these situations. Make sure you know where your surroundings are, you know where you are, you know who you're with. You never want to be in a situation, I can't stress it enough, especially where I come from. You never want to be in a situation where you're dealing with a certain type of person that you didn't know, and now you get into a fight and you beat that person up. Now that person's waiting outside with a gun, because again, there's no way to dodge bullets. So avoid these situations at all costs. Always keep your head on a swivel, know where the exits are, and stay safe. Jiu-Jitsu is a self-defense based martial art. There's no room in this martial art for bullies. And if you are a bully, hopefully you learn your lesson in the gym and stop being a bully. But it's very important that we always protect ourselves, we avoid these situations so that we can continue to live and train Jiu-Jitsu the way we need to train. But make sure you follow me at Coach DJ Jackson on Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos soon.